Well, I don't want to give an introduction myself. That's strange if others introduces him, his concept. I think this will be seen when we look at the pieces. So I invite you to a journey through the development of my work, which started quite early, and I try to describe the pieces. Sometimes it's necessary to interpret it, but I try to stick to pure description. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. What you see here is a drawing I did at the age of 16, before I started my studies in art. What you see is a stick of wood and the thread around, or a cord. And I did this with the idea the spectators should unroll the cord by this act. And this thing connect a work with activation or doing or action. In the beginning, imagination, that became a topos in my whole career as an artist. Size of the drawing about this is pencil drawing. Okay, next one. That's about the same time. Altogether, there were about more than 100 of those drawings, which are called outline drawings. The size of these drawings are like this, also made of pencil drawings, with the idea that these shapes could be developed in imagination to a work or to an object. Again, it was the idea that the spectators should act, bring it to, as I said, an object, or fill in the inner space. It was also 1955, by the way. And if you remember the situation of the art of that time, it's very strange to do things like this. That's the work I did after I was exiled at the Art Academy. I had a small studio, and there, among others, I had found papers I cut to size and painted it over roughly. There were stains, which I thought I defined it as something like composition, like a structure. Painted it over roughly or in part, and had them on stack like this. And the idea was that when I have them on stack, what is their status? And my idea of storage came up then. On the wall, when they are pinned on the wall, they did represent painting, but what are they in this form? So that's, the answer stayed open, but it was connected with the idea of acting, taking part, and changing the meaning by having them on the wall or on the floor on a table. It's 1961, I was just 22 years old. Okay, thank you. Then working on myself was okay, but I needed friends around me to discuss my questions I had in art. And I went to the Art Academy in Düsseldorf, in Germany, because at that time, it was at the time a sensation, 2 teachers, informal painters, were teaching at the academy. That was, so I thought, to go there, I can develop my work. And it was a good choice then. This is one of the earliest works I did at the academy. By the way, the guy there, that's me, 1962. This work, we have a similar one in our show at UMEX. I called air enclosures. What you see there, I had 2 sheets. On those sheets, with a brush, I painted glue around. The center, in a rough shape, I left empty. And with a straw, I was blowing air inside. And I fixed it on the table, let it dry, and had this as I called it, material process. So I thought that was a real step from painting processes of the art informel to material processes first. And whereas form and shape, seen at the time, it was up to the definition of the spectators. And again, when it was on stack on the floor, it was storage. You could address it as a kind of strange sculpture. You could handle it by turning it around like a book. It was two-sided. So again, all this, thinking in terms of painting, sculpture and so on, nothing did fit. So it was up to the people who would handle it, how to define it. It could be on a wall, pinned on a wall as a block in a line, and as I said, also on the floor. And it was quite unusual to use air as a material. I just want to recover materials which hadn't been used before, not knowing of the wonderful piece of Marcel Duchamp, Paris Air, you know it is. But there, of course, that was completely different. It was irony, where I never worked with irony, kind of, it was serious. Also in 1963, this was the first show I did in a gallery with pieces from 62, 63. You see the yellow box again. It was in a small gallery in my hometown in beginning of 64. It was a scandal. The two local newspaper described it as a scandal, it is a provocation, and he wanted to put the people on. And you have the chair with this pillow shape. The pillow shapes you see here, they had developed from these air enclosures. There's also one on the floor, and you have on the back something like those ribbons, bands. What you see here, it's just in part to be seen, was a 10-meter long rope, strong rope. It ran on the floor, 5 meters. It was fixed next to the wall with a nail, run around an ankle on the floor, was fixed again by a nail. Then I brought it in an ankle to another wall, and let it run up 1 meter on the wall, and called it space. 63. Two pieces of that time. This one we have in our show at Casa Barragan, a 100-meter long rope, which I described as sculptural line in space. Up there are two classes with corns of rice, one with long corn rice, one with round corn rice. Of course, always activation. You could activate, remember the drawing I did in 55, this wood with the rope around. I did draw, and here you have it. They are Bordeaux red, the ones we have with our space forms at Schumix. And here they are folded together, you can see. That was important for me, that somehow you could read the shape even when the pieces are folded in, and they were accompanied by drawings. The drawings exist for each one, consisted of 5 definitions of the work by language or just saying inside, outside, by lines, movement, projections of direction. And of course photographs, otherwise it would be a strange secret to look at those. Okay, that's another version. They are in bags. In this case, it's natural color. On the back you can't see in detail the drawings. These are the 45 pieces, the 45 definitions of those straight path. This we have at Umix, the space forms. So the setup you can take, it's a kind of architecture, it's a kind of sculpture, but when you get your pottery in relation to it, somehow it becomes a strange pedestal. Change places, connect them, can be one, the person can be two. So we'll see, we have 3 in our show, one double piece and one, okay. 73, by the way. This is an example of, it was shown, most of the pieces folded in the storage situation along the wall, and just one element set up in the center. A very similar piece we have in our show at UMix. Did we have this one in Venice at the Biennale? No. No, it was another one, but a similar one. But here again, can we go back? There's a segment, the yellow one, you can step in, making you part of the work. You could be into these columns, as I call them. They model themselves in a way. These elements can be taken out, 2 parted vests and 2 leg pieces. They can be taken out. Again, you expand the piece in the surrounding space. These pieces were done in the mid-80s, this type. Okay. So it reminds me to mention the use of color, because in the work set of the 60s, color was not important. You know, the activation doing, oh, well, there were no bright colors, I have to say. For me, that would have been addition to. So I didn't want this. Of course, I was aware of, there was a kind of coloring. Somewhere they had no colors, otherwhere had a kind of gray, greenish, brownish stuff, but no bright colors, because this would develop a second meaning, which was not necessary. Having the idea, forming something opposite of you, I don't know if I mentioned it before, in the reception to define it in standing in front of them, defining as sculptural painting or painterly sculpture, with the possibility to add your body, but it has momentum of pictorial things. Of course, color could appear again, simple reason. And somehow you have the feeling the color is also a kind of material. It's not coloring. If it would have been color changing, that would point to painting, which I didn't want to. They are sculptural. Of course, if you want to, you can read it as a painterly or pictorial question. Okay. We have this configuration. We have in our show, I think, 8 of them, I think, at UMax. They can be put, or they are in the storage situation, to have them as block, and they can be arranged in endless varieties in relation to the given space, wall proportion, and so on. Also, this procession. So also in our show can be activated. I think we have photographs of it, I hope. That's the activation of the form letter shape set. It's a work corpus of 26, which relate to the 26 letters of the Roman alphabet. And all these pieces can be activated more or less. But this, unfortunately, we can't do because it's not space. You have to have a lot of space around. Nevertheless, yes, ideas to be seen. We have, in relation to all of those 26 pieces, drawings which show the activation in a way. This one we also have our show in the storage situation, like at the left side. An activation could be this, taking the elements out, arrange them on the wall. But to do this in our show, somehow it wouldn't work, so we left it in a storage situation. There are also air enclosures, also in our show. O, letter O, different possibilities of arrangement. Oh, this one's also in our show. Could you go back? No, this one. We have this shape, this arrangement. Though these kernels, as I call them, can be taken out, can be on the wall like this. It refers to the letter W, by the way. And these pieces can be inside, I call them kernels, can be taken out, either really in space or by imagination.